I'm Brent Hawkes, and I'm going to speak to you this evening about activism from the perspective, about social change from the perspective of being an activist in the LGBT community. And there are 9 quick points I want to make. In terms of activism, I believe that there's always been 2 elements that are absolutely crucial in order for activism to really make social change work. And those have been protest and negotiation. If we don't have protest, often institutions don't pay any attention to us, or if they do, they're just pretending to pay attention to us. The protest catches the attention, while the negotiation helps to move things forward. And so we need both. And the importance of having mutual respect among the protesters for the folks on the inside negotiating, and the negotiators having respect for the protesters on the outside. Secondly, I wish I could say that ideas really change things. And while ideas are crucial, I believe it's relationships that really change things. And the best example I have of that is a man named George Hislop, who years ago, when we were trying to meet with the police to get them to make some changes to improve their relationship with the gay and lesbian community, they would hardly meet with us, hardly pay attention to us, wouldn't take any notes, wouldn't make any changes. Until George started memorizing the wives' names, and in those days the senior police were all male. He'd memorize their wives' names, their kids' names, their dogs' names. And when we would meet, for the first 5 minutes, he would just smooze them about who their wife was and what she was doing lately and what kids graduated from university. And that began to break the ice, and it really opened up them to listening to us. And so down through the years, we worked hard on building those relationships, on celebrating the successes, even though they were small in the early days, and making sure that we dwelled on the positives while we dealt with a large number of negatives. Third point is probably the one you're going to disagree with me most on. In order to affect social change, it's crucial to expose the extremes, to talk about the cases of discrimination, to tell the horror stories, and also to expose the extremists. I've often said that whenever there was a debate about a law or a change that needed to happen, one of the smartest things we could ever do is find the wackiest person on the other side and go on a tour with them across Canada. Because as we exposed those extremes, it moved the middle ground toward us. Fourthly, all social change, in my opinion, is incremental. Very seldom do you make a big move forward, but you build on those little successes. And when you hang in for everything, you usually get nothing. And that means tough choices, painful compromise. However, it builds the movement as you make a little bit of gain and more people get involved and more people feel encouraged to be out and to be involved. And you have to be in it for the long haul. Down through the years, first we had to work for the decriminalization of same-sex sexual activity. Then we had to get job protection so people wouldn't be fired. Then we had to fight for relationship recognition so we could visit our partners in the hospital or adopt our kids. And finally, it was equal marriage, step by step by step, affecting change over the long haul. Fifth, legal changes are crucially important, but sometimes they're mainly symbolic. And as important as that is, it's the follow-up that's crucial. Equality in law does not necessarily mean equality in practice. It's ongoing education. They said that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. I think that's true. I also think the price of freedom is eternal education, bringing segments of society along. Number 6, the important role of various institutions in impacting social change. Over the years, in the early days, it was the politicians, working on a few politicians to pass legislation and to speak out. And I think it's unfortunate that nowadays we say that the politicians' role, I think, is diminishing. And more, it's the courts, where we have to go to the courts to fight for change. And I'm really pleased that the Court Challenges program has been brought back in by the current government. But also the crucial role of the media in getting the information out. A good article in a respected newspaper can change hearts. And interestingly enough, one of the institutions that are really impacting change nowadays are corporations. And I can almost say that in some respects, corporations are taking the place of activists. And just want to use a couple of examples. In India, when they recriminalized homosexuality, it was IBM that sent their executives to India to challenge the government to say, we're not going to make further investments as long as you discriminate against our employees who are in India or our international employees who are coming to India. And I think all of us saw what happened recently in North Carolina when they were going to pass that crazy bathroom legislation. And many corporations said that they were going to pull their conventions from North Carolina. And that really caught the attention of politicians. So when you're trying to affect social change, don't forget those various institutions and the roles that they play. In 2001, I performed the first marriage of a gay and lesbian couple anywhere in the history of the world. And because of the media attention of that event, because of the death threats that I got, because I had to wear a bulletproof vest, because I had 12 bodyguards protecting me, 11 of the toughest looking lesbians you've ever seen in your life, and one gay man coordinating it all. That points out that sometimes, seriously though, those who break ground have to pay a price. But a reporter told me that because of all of the publicity of that event, that it was the biggest shift in public opinion on any social issue in the history of Canada. Because there was so much media coverage that everyone was talking about this event. Which leads me to my next point. It's important that there is public discussion and making sure there's ongoing public discussion about whatever the social issue is that you're addressing. Prejudices die when they are exposed. They have life when they're unexpressed and when they're unchallenged. We can have reasonable arguments, reasonable discussions with each other, but ultimately, I believe truth will win the day. The challenge in this era of social media is that it's, yes, so much easier to get the message out, but it also allows the extremists to find other extremists and to form bonds. For those of you who are able to fund organizations, I would really encourage you, and this is my final point, many of the organizations who are working very hard to affect social change are so poorly funded. If they had funds to train the young activists to do media work, if they had funds to hire communications firms to help them with communication strategies, so much more can be done. Ultimately, I'm an optimist. And I believe that if our cause is right, it will prevail. And all we have to do is look back at the history of the last, I've been the pastor of our church for 40 years. Look back over the last 40 years and see the progress that's been made on behalf of the LGBT community. It has been phenomenal. So activism does work to impact social change. Thank you.